What's up, divine beings? Welcome to the fourth episode of Conscious Conversation. I am super stoked to introduce to this special person. He is a coach, a philanthropist, a social impact entertainment specialist, and a heart-centered entrepreneur. The founder of Kindness Media Studios, a company that creates social impact entertainment to make this world a better place, and the business developer of Fun Funding, a company that encourages and enables people to do more good through their everyday actions effortlessly and easily. He is also a coach since 2014, helped over a dozen people, including myself, to become their best selves personally, socially, and professionally. Overall, just a super warm, zen, and encouraging person. I'm blessed to call this man my coach and friend. I welcome you all, Corey Harnish.
Hey, cool, man. Thanks for the intro.
Great. I just want to start off how we met because I think that's a beautiful story and a great introduction to our relationship. And the funny thing is, we only met once in person, but we have kept this relationship going for around 4 years already, which has been super organic and beautiful. And so, how Corey and I met was back in San Francisco in 2016. I was at a conference, startup conference, doing my thing, trying to understand the scene a little bit. And I was just walking around the booth area, just trying to like talk to local startups and see what they're doing and just to gain some inspiration. And I was just saw this guy who was standing in front of the booth with a nice little smile. But something about his energy really attracted me to this person. And this person was Corey, and he was just standing there. We talked for around 3 4 minutes, but the impression and his energy was so strong that the day before I left San Francisco, I actually called the number that he gave me on his business card, and we just chatted. And he was like, you know what, Marco, like I didn't expect anything from that call, right? But we just kept in contact through LinkedIn, and it organically kept up, and he became my coach, which was beautiful. So I just want to tell people that little story on how we met because of your energy.
Yeah, I remember that call we had. I was about to go to my buddy's house who lived right outside the Mission District. You called me like literally I remember I either just arrived or was arriving. We hung out on the call for like 15 minutes, and to me you were bold. Like you just met me. We talked for like 4 minutes, like you just said. Felt some good energy, but you just reached out like, hey man, I want to know you. I don't know why or what, but like let's talk. Like how can I learn from you or whatever it was. And there was just some cool, like that was action you took. Like you were already on your initiative to get what you wanted, and I just happened to be a conduit in there with some good energy.
Yeah, because I think back at that time, I think I'm sure you remember how I was and how I evolved. I was a person that was trying to just search for success, just trying to learn from everybody, and from you, right? Like I just felt the calmness and the zenfulness, and also, yeah, like when I was talking to you, I felt like it was only me and you talking. There wasn't
Mm.
anyone in the room, and it's like that moment when you're with someone that you like, right? You're in that little bubble. So I haven't felt that with a lot of people, so I knew like there was something beyond business that you were doing that made me feel attracted to you in that way, like in a not
Mm.
sexual way, what I'm trying to say. Yeah, just like,
Of course,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That like, yeah, that space where you could like really show up authentically or be you, or kind of like felt at ease or felt that zen, as one would say.
Yeah, so I heard that we spoke about this before. This is not the first time we speak about this topic, and you said that other friends also picked up that from you, and they compliment that on you as well. So I'm just wondering, like, what do you think, like, you're doing? Are you naturally this way? Like, what's sort of like your
Nice.
approach? Is there even an approach on this? Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I think a little of it's natural, but also like tons of deliberate effort and and practice and practice. For me, the idea of like calm as a superpower is true to me. So like any chance I have to flex that muscle or to like deepen my ability just to stay at ease. So sometimes it shows up as like practicing meditation. Sometimes it shows up as like being mindful of where my mind is. And whenever I notice creating these shifts, so people have noticed it is interesting. Like one thing coming to mind is one of the organizations I run is a nonprofit, all about like creating tech for social good. So a lot of time we have different volunteers jump in a call together who are helping out. And I remember one of the people, Dorota, she would always say like, if Corey was in the call, I just knew it was going to be okay, no matter what kind of stress. And so like, kind of like how we have this energy, even though we're not physically together when we have our sessions, or it was only 4 minutes of in-person time, that you still feel it. And same things happen in person. I think there's just like I don't know, like each of us has an energy aura around us. Some of us can see that, some of us can feel it, some of us might not even realize it's interacting with us. And so there's something about my aura that really resonates with people, or like people tap into it. And with that, like there's actually a lot of science showing up to show you that, let's say you're in a room with somebody who has a really strong positive energy, we can see through different machines that that positive energy literally overpowers the other person and helps bring them to this state of equilibrium, let's say. So yeah, it's really interesting to see. And the more I've tapped into it and like allow that to be who I am, the more I've cultivated, the more it shows up that people sense it and join in with it.
In addition to calmness, I also feel like there's a little bit of loving and also that overall caring energy. And I remember like one story, it just popped in my head of how this, you were wearing this necklace and some guy actually gave it to you outside of like a convenience store or something. Do you remember you telling me that story?
I do. It was a love warrior necklace. I was, oh my God, this goes way back. I was in LA, uh, kind of like at the start of my career, and just wandering to wherever we could go. And it was something like a consciousness conference or consciousness convention it was. So there was all these different booths around, and I was walking down one of these aisles, and about like, I don't know, like 4 booths away, some guy like yelled like and pointed at me like, "Hey you, like come here." He's like, "I feel you, I feel your energy, and I need to give you something." And so I went over, we started talking, and it was this little like medallion, and it represented being a love warrior. And he felt that I had this energy, and what he wanted to do is he wanted to give me this necklace to represent myself being a love warrior, which is essentially just somebody who's unconditionally giving love to whoever shows up. Even if you don't know it, you're just passing by and I'm just conveying it to you, or it's in a deep conversation. And so the vision of his love warrior necklace was, you wear this, and when you find somebody that you feel compelled to give it to, you give it to them, sharing that same message of what the point of it is, how they are showing up as a love warrior, and with the request to quote unquote like pay it forwards and give it on. So I
That's
did. Yeah,
funny.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. You've also met him in the conference, how we met as well. So there's a little
Yeah,
synchronicity there.
absolutely. Because it's showing, it's an energy thing, right? So like when you feel that pull and you notice it, people act on it. So you subconsciously or consciously noticed a shift in your energy while we were around. Like there were 50, 60 people in that same aisle when you came near me, but you felt it.
Yeah,
And so it
100%.
spoke to you.
Yeah.
Similar with this man, it was a totally different space, totally different environment, but he felt something too. And so he acted on it.
So, by the way, one quick thing. Did you give that necklace away to someone else?
I did. As I was sharing with that, I was looking to recall if I remembered who. And sometimes I intentionally allow things like this just to like fade, but I believe it was a friend who was visiting from Egypt. She became a friend. She wasn't a friend, but we met each other, interacted, and I believe on her goodbye, this is what I gave her. So
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
it has been passed around the world at this point.
Cool. Um, so I want to ask, so for the people who's listening, how can they practice that unconditional love and also that calmness that it seems so natural to you, but you still cultivate it every single day? Like how can, people start
Nice.
having that, practicing that?
There's a few ways. First is the biggest thing that I share is like fake it till you make it. So like let yourself know you're calm. Let yourself know you have that love in your heart, because it is that way as it is already. There's just a lot of cloud or distractions or external stimulus that takes over and kind of like buries that feeling inside. So like what you could do is look to cultivate it, like sit with it and intentionally imagine it's in your heart, that love, or imagine that you are a calm person. So this is one way. It takes a lot of conscious effort, right? But that's how we create a shift. Another way is putting ourselves in environments where we need to be loving. So maybe reaching out to somebody who needs help or needs a listening hand, and you playing that role. So by being a support structure for somebody, you're stepping into the shoes of unconditional love, and you're flexing that muscle. You're building the habit of it a little bit more. You could
Mm,
do things like meta meditation, where it's loving kindness. So you're practicing certain mantras, creating affirmations around this idea of I am unconditionally loving, I am calm, I am gentle. Yeah, I think these are some nice ways.
right. And how can you have that unconditional part? Like I get the loving part, you see a nice person, very nice to you, you can be nice, but like what about like a hater or someone that just gives you looks that judge you? How can you not be judgmental
Nice.
back? How can you still have that positive energy?
Yeah, I was writing something like this. Every morning I do what I call a thinking journal. So I pose a
Hmm.
question or a statement, generally growth oriented or focused forwards. So today I wrote something like, "What's the purpose of like lifting somebody else up?" And so the relevance of why I brought that up is what I wrote about was, if I'm creating an intention to be unconditionally loving to you and you're this quote unquote hater, by me feeling positivity in you, I'm helping shift that negativity. By me staying in a loving situation despite you being this quote unquote hater, I am only resonating positivity. I'm not allowing that negativity to live within me as well. And so for me, it's really important to stay integral to the future I want to see for me, myself, for us, for the collective at the same time. Uh, and then the other thing is, I'm really big on this idea of like the forgotten virtue is discernment. We've talked about
Mm,
this in our coachings, but like
yeah.
discernment is the ability to look at something, see what it is for what it is. There's no such thing as right or wrong or better or worse or it should be this way or it could be that way. It's just like, okay, I see that this person is screaming because they're out of traffic light. That doesn't mean I need to get stressed too. Or I understand that this person is upset because they just lost somebody dear to them, but that doesn't mean I need to like look at them negatively or call them out on it. I can just allow that to be and respond. So for me, of course, like sometimes judgments show up. That's the what happens with the brain. Uh, but it's just a matter of, are we conscious of what's showing up? And once we are, and we notice that, how do we shift? How do we respond? And so for me, it's a practice of always looking to see what's the positive thing I could do here? What's the way I can assist in shifting?
So let's say if I see some dude walking on the street, and then I
Sure.
start judging him. Okay. So when you have that awareness to that, okay, you're judging this person. Next, like, where do you shift that attention to? Like, practically, how that look like for you in your
Nice.
body? Like, yeah, how that
Yeah,
look like?
yeah. Good question. It doesn't matter. You could, the point is to notice, as you just referenced, acknowledge that you're having this such thought, and then shift. You can choose to shift to something positive about that person. So, like, hey, I just noticed I had a judgment about that man. So now you can intentionally say something positive. You can
Hmm.
intentionally send loving kindness energy to that person. Or you can shift your attention to the trees and look at the beauty around you instead. Or you can shift your mind to focus on a vision you have for yourself, or like switch into something that has importance to where you are right now rather than that external. I think that the biggest thing is not where you shift, but noticing the need to shift, if that makes sense.
Makes sense. And right now, when you are just roaming around your day-to-day lives, do you like have that scan and judge mechanism in your inside you? Because like I still have that right now, although I've been proactively noticing that I judge people. Like if I see a really cute girl, like, oh my god, like, you know, I react. I'm like, let's get back center, or like this guy, like this really
Sure.
cocky guy, right? It's like, do you still have that scan and judge kind of mechanism, or how can you desensitize that a little bit more?
I mean, I'd be lying if I said no. I've built a really strong muscle to stay in a state of discernment and just
Hmm.
observation. But I mean, sometimes we live through stories, right? So like, in order for me to perceive what's going on around me, I'm creating a story so I can understand it. So a lot of the time, a story is subjective, which is a form of judgment because I'm looking at it through my lens. But I think the key here is like keeping a state of mindfulness, or I prefer a word like focused attention, because sometimes mindfulness is convoluted. It's a big buzzword. We're not really sure what that really means. But in my day to day, just being in flow, being present minded. So when a judgment does show up, I can be like, okay, my brain had a judgment. I can either sit with that and hold on to it, or I can notice it and allow it to be just a thought that passes by, like the air that passes by as I'm walking.
Got you. There's one more thing before I want to zoom back out in the macro is connecting to the heart space, because I feel like, you know, this is ultimately where the love originates. It's where,
Mm,
you know, where we need to go back, you know, instead of living too much in the head, go back to the heart a little bit more, right? So how do you like activate that heart space a little bit more? You talked about kindness meditation. Is there something that you do to kind of have more love within yourself so that you can have love to give to other people?
cool. Loving kindness meditation for sure. The other is just like intentionally looking at something through a lens of love. Um, so at this point, like just seeing a situation and shifting a second here, but a cool thing that came.
Hey, what's up, guys? Hope you're enjoying the conscious conversation so far. During the call, there was a little bit of technical difficulty. My Wi-Fi got shut out for no reason, but you know, we jumped back on the call and everything went smooth again. So, let me bring you back to Corey. Let go. Do you remember the question? Do you remember where you were going?
Yeah, we were. I was in a flow on like, how do I cultivate that love, or how do I stay with love in my heart despite what's happening around me. And I think this is beautifully what just happened. I'm sure you're gonna do some really cool editing and fix it, but regardless, we just got disconnected, and it's while we're here doing something, and like immediately our reactions are probably like, shit, the call just got canceled. Oh my god, we're in the middle of in a conversation. And like, I love it because it's a challenge to see how well we can keep control of our state of being. Like, what happened when you were gone and I was here alone? I was like, well, okay, I'm sure he lost the call got dropped. Let's see when he returns. Like,
Yeah.
nothing in my body said be angry or be mad or be like, oh. It was just like, all right, Marco's not here, let's wait until Marco returns.
Awesome.
And the key I think about it is you have to want to have love in your heart. You have to want to be able to be unconditional no matter what happens, no matter what it is, no matter who it is, no matter how. You have to want to hold love in your heart even when it doesn't feel good, because it's a shift that's happening. You're changing your relationship with all the stimulus. You can love everything. Love has no judgments. That's why we say unconditional. Everything has a value if you shift to see it for its value. So I love everything.
Mm. And I'm just wondering because, like, if you tell someone to have this unconditional love for some people, you know, like if they're not in their personal spiritual development journey, they won't see the value in cultivating this ability or practicing this, right? So can you tell people about how you started your spiritual journey a little bit? I know it started for you in university. Like, what stimulated it? Were you always spiritual? Like, what happened that caused you to step into this path?
Yeah, I mean, there's this word called confabulating, where every time you try to like pull back a memory or a situation, you like change what it actually was or why it happened. And so like I can't actually say specifically where I began or how it began. There are some like quote unquote milestones that I've had in my past that
Mm-hmm.
I think are like have guided me this way. Some of it was a dear friend of mine who was suffering cancer. She was my best friend. And no matter what happened, she always had a smile on her face despite what was going on inside. And so just having that like personal relationship of somebody who literally was told they were about to die and yet she was still able to smile. And so like how can I show up with anything else but love and support?
Mm.
So she really taught me a lot. um, I'm grateful for my childhood and my parents because I have a little sister. uh, but when I was 13, she was my little cousin. um, and the way that works is that my parents brought her in my home to because she was going to be put up for adoption for whatever reasons. And after she was in my home for X number of years, I started to realize like, hey, that's my little sister. I can love her as my little sister. Who cares that biologically she's not?
Mm-hmm.
But she is to me what a little sister is. And so loving her unconditionally, she didn't choose to be put in this situation. She didn't choose to maybe make my home environment a little different or a little challenging. And because of that, when I was young, I used to hate my aunt. Like I literally used to preach and speak about how I hated my aunt because she did that to my little cousin. And then at one point I realized like, no, I am so grateful for my aunt. Because of her, I now have a little sister.
Mm.
Because of her situation, whatever happened in her world, I was given a blessing to be able to act like an older brother, to be able to be a support, to be connected to my sister. So like I think those are big things. And then where you alluded to in university, I had a degree in computer science. In my fourth year, I felt like it wasn't really for me. Something about me was more on an emotional wavelength. Um, I discovered the concept of coaching. I was really in tune with it. And I really have a passion for helping people that might be like, we could say like juveniles to some capacity. And so this was like a big factor. Like no matter how hard of a situation somebody's had, no matter how bad they've been, no matter like there's a phrase I really like from a organization called the five ventures, and they use this phrase, we're all X somethings. Like, so being able to recognize somebody for a mistake or a past and move forwards, these are like, I guess I would say, some pivotal moments that got me on this path.
And so can you speak a little bit more about what your friend that had cancer, what was her name? Like, is she still here?
Yeah, her name is Susie. I'm grateful that she's still here. Uh,
So like
how would you like me to speak to it?
so what did Susie teach you that how old were you when she had cancer?
I believe I was around like 19, 20-ish, something like
Okay.
this. And it wasn't anything specific. It was more about the interactions that taught me something. And I
Yeah.
think the lessons came years later, because she actually left my life intentionally. She just like cut herself out of my world because we were best friends. She
Mm-hmm.
was concerned about if she died,
Mm-hmm.
how that would harm me.
Wow.
And yet she's on her quote unquote like death sentence, and yet she's being selfless and like concerned for my well-being and my emotional stability. And so like I didn't know that then, but some 5 or 6 years later she had reached out, just to like check in, let me know she was okay. And at that time she had a kid already. And I remember that when she reached out, there was a picture of her and her kid. And I remember just being like, I don't even know how to describe it, but just so happy to see that she had a kid. Because if she had a kid, that meant she beat cancer.
Mm. Wow. So you didn't
And
even know that if she lived or not. Like she
I
just
had no
disappeared.
idea.
Wow.
For
Yeah.
years, literally for years, I was just on a hunt, like trying to find her out. I looking for her. Did she move? Sent her some things.
Mm.
Checked obituaries, like. And so from all that action that I took, I was going through my own trauma because of that situation. Because
Yeah.
somebody that was dear to my heart, one of the closest people I've ever had, all
Mm.
of a sudden it's gone. Like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Blah, blah, blah. And so it really taught me that, like, I guess circling back, like the love that I share with her, I still share that in my heart. So regardless of talking to her, regardless of seeing her, regardless of interacting with her, love is in your heart. There's no love out here that we like grab and hold on to. If you say you love somebody, it's not tangible. It's not that person. It's in you, but we create a perception that it's because of them that the love is there. So I
Mm.
really learned that I can love a person even if they don't know. I can
Mm.
love an experience even if the experience is not even aware of it. And I can love things that are like labeled harmful or painful or whatever it is. Love is self-chosen. Like, you create it, you feel it. No matter what you say, other people just hear words, but you feel the feelings.
Got you. And real quick, I'm just wondering, like, did you have a good upbringing growing up? Because for a lot of people, when they don't have good parents, like that could really make them not loving, or that might
Nice.
stimulate them to go into the like development or spiritual journey, like like how I did. So I'm just quickly there, like, is that something for you?
I would say, I mean, everybody has their like at home challenges or like things about their parents that they're embarrassed about or they don't like necessarily believe in, whether it's arguments or the way you're scolded for something or what they want you to do versus what you want to do. So like, I'm grateful that I had two parents in my home who raised me. There were some things, of course, that I didn't agree with or that set me on a different path, but I would be naive to say like I had a hard childhood or something like this.
Mm. Um, and I'm just wondering, like, because a lot of the threads within your projects we haven't spoke about yet, but I'm sure we'll touch on in a bit. Like, you have it's very like philanthropist space. It's, you know, like trying to help the world, it's trying to like make the world a better place. It's trying to like, yeah, just that, right? So like, where does that desire come from? Where does that motivation come from? Like, what do you like? Did you grow up always want to like make the world a better place and help other people, or was how was that developed inside you? Like, yeah.
I think here, uh, similar to what I said about where that love showed up from, very similar space here. So like my sister Susie, wanting to help juveniles, all these kind of things. I have all that similar essence of helping the world. And just for fun, I would say what drives me the most is the future that I can have if I put all my energy towards making the world a better place. Because if I'm making the world a better place, I'm part of that world that I'm
Mm,
making better. So my world is made better too. So I do it for me, I do it for you, I do it for us.
mm,
Because what's the value? Like think of karma, right? Karmic energy. How am I going to expect to have better karma around me if I'm judging the world around me, if I'm complaining about the problems, if I'm looking at what's wrong? How is that going to help myself? I'm literally like drinking the Kool-Aid too. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. If that's not the world I want to see, I'm going to do what I can to create or impact or contribute to this world I want to see.
like that's amazing, and I share the same vibe. I share the same value, but like for some people, why does that have to be a priority, or like why does that have to be a factor? You know, with especially with the negative connotation with business is about the profits, right? So, like, what's the value in that for people? Like, where does the money and the impact? How does that balance? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I call it passion equity. So a lot of the time people in startup space have this concept of sweat equity, right? Like, oh, you got to bust your ass, you got to sweat, you got to work hard before you can make any money. But look how like rough and unattractive that is, and like how hard that looks visually, right? But when you shift your mind and think of it as passion equity, like what's happening? It feels so much more like it's pulling you towards it, literally. Like, oh my God, I'm going to put passion to this. I'm going to give it everything because I love it. Like, no matter if it's having to edit a video or if it's having to send this email to somebody I don't even know if it's the right email address, I love it. I
Mm-hmm.
love the
Yeah.
challenge. It's passion.
Mm,
So, like, that's one. How you see money. Money is just like a flow of energy, right? Cash flow means flow needs to be two ways. So, there's always like for instance there's me and you, there's these people that are watching this, there's other podcasts like this, there's other communities that are awake, that are wanting to do good, and each of us has a different specialty or a service or something to quote unquote trade with. So there's that exchange that can happen within this social impact industry. So I can still put a price tag on what I do, and I could still create finances from it. But when my number one reason for action or work is the money, then it's hard to do it for the passion.
mm.
But because money is like energy that flows, if I'm attracting positive energy, if I'm pulling in people for what I believe in, then the money will come when it needs to come, how it needs to come.
Can you speak a little bit more about how to attract that flow of good people and get that resources in divine timing?
Check in you. Is there a flow in yourself? Are you in alignment? Are you feeling like you're doing something that makes
Mm,
you here, makes you present, makes you enjoy what you're doing? If
mm-hmm,
not, what do you need to be changing? What can you bring to yourself? And focus there first, And then when you get there, you'll start to be able to see opportunities for a financial flow to take place.
Can you give an example like how that manifested in your life, like how that looked like for your life when you're in that flow, like whether that's an opportunity or just anything like financial or a partnership or things like that? How does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's arbitrary in a way, but like some ways that looks like for a few years I was working on a startup that didn't have cash flow, doing everything I can do with my passion equity, trying to find the right people, make connections, and all of a sudden I get put in contact with somebody who is doing something similar and needs a partner, needs a teammate.
Hmm.
And so I found a way, because I was searching for my passion, my project. An opportunity showed up like, hey, Corey, I love what you're doing. You're amazing at your job. I like your energy. I like how you are
Yeah.
self-accountable, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera. Like, can you join my team?
Right.
Join the team. It's not my project anymore. I'm a part of it, but now I'm being paid to be a part of it. So like that's one example. Like I was following my passion project and some other project showed up and was like, hey, Corey, I need you.
Right. So it's like you never know how the path's gonna lead, but as long you're in that path, like you're gonna attract the right opportunities. Like maybe you were supposed to learn all the lessons that you need to learn with the good cards, and then now you're in fun funding, right? Like that's
Yeah, yeah,
maybe that's what prepared you. Like if you didn't do that, you won't be where you are right now, right? So it's like that's beautiful.
absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
and that gives me a lot of reassurance to know, like with what I'm doing as well, it's like, yeah, maybe what I'm doing with this podcast or this company, it might maybe it was a similar situation, or maybe like who knows, right? Maybe there's a plan out there, but I just have to follow that intuition maybe, and that guidance.
And to speak to what we touched on a little bit, I just want to throw back here
Yeah.
in that, not judging it at all. No judgment here, because what if that opportunity shows up for a shift to leave Divicati for whatever reason? If you're
Mm-hmm.
attached to your current status, you're going to have a resentment or a reason not to leave because you're afraid of leaving that, because it feels so normal. It feels like a part of you. It feels like another appendage. However, if you are open to changing because something else showed up, there's no judgment there. You're welcoming that opportunity. You're not resisting it.
Got you. Yeah. 100%. I want to touch back on a point that you spoke a little bit about. Like it was that future that you want to be part of and you want to build and you want to create. So
Sure.
how does that look like for you? Because like I'm on the same mission to make this world a more loving and conscious place as well. So maybe practically or tangibly, how does that look like for you? Like what is the world you want to co-create?
Yeah. I call it social impact entertainment. And
Yeah.
so, what I want to contribute to the world is a world where TV, film, games, media is created with intention to lift each other up.
Mm,
Using games to help raise money for charity, where the conversation is, hey, will you play this game with me? Rather than, hey, will you donate? An animation series for kids where you're following a doll around the world and each episode is teaching you about a sustainable development goal or teaching you about a emotional characteristic like forgiveness or inclusion.
mm,
A dramatic comedy full of a multiracial family going through trauma because mom passed away, and you're seeing these siblings interact from different backgrounds, maybe stepbrother, stepsister, but they're still coming together because they're family. Family is chosen. Um, so like this is one way. These are just examples of content that could be created, or ways we could use it.
mm-hmm.
And then the other contributing is flexing my coaching muscle. Coaching for me is not about being a specialist in any one kind of content or one field or one industry. Coaching for me is about thinking. It's about guiding one through discovering where they want to go, how they want to go there, what steps to take. And when I coach, I can assist you in any topic you have, because for me, it doesn't matter what you're working on. It just matters how I can guide you in growing. And so as a coach, I can really help the world because I'm coming to a state where, okay, you're ready to change, you're ready to grow. How can I support you? What do I need to do to be a sounding board so we can hear how you want to increase your positive resonance or something like this? So I would say, in short, coaching, social impact entertainment are how I will help shift humanity.
Beautiful, beautiful. And oh man, there's so much we can pick onto, but can you tell me a little bit more about the space of social impact entertainment, because it's something quite new and it's not a lot of people
Yes,
have heard about
for
this, and I
sure.
know you're passionate about talking about the space. So what is something that people should know, and are there any like case studies that would be
Yeah,
interesting to
yeah,
share? Yeah.
absolutely. It's a growing space, and some of us are coming from a behavior change background, like myself. I'm really passionate about how I can help shift people's behavior positively. And I'm seeing entertainment as a vehicle to do that because of how we engage with it, because of how controlling it sometimes is.
Mm-hmm.
There's other people that are in the entertainment industry that are quote unquote waking up or having a life desire to shift to have more impact, and they're finding ways to integrate impact in their productions. So social impact entertainment looks nothing different than a TV show you're watching, or a film you're watching, or a game you're playing, except that rather than just creating a story to creating a story, you're creating a story that has a certain message to it, that has
Mm-hmm.
certain scenes that are showing social challenges and how we can overcome them. You're seeing a scene where maybe there's a scene like in, I don't know, any drama TV show like Weeds or This Is Us or whatever the show might be. There's a scene where people are going to argue probably. How we write that scene can either make people notice arguments and notice fights, or you
Mm.
can write it in a way that, oh, those people had a fight and look how they handled overcoming that.
Man,
It might
yeah,
speak to your subconscious. You might not
100%.
even consciously recognize it, but by watching it, you're now more likely to handle that argument in a future way. Some
Man,
examples are, go ahead, go ahead.
go ahead, go ahead.
No, yeah, yeah. I was just thinking some other recent examples. One is American Factory. It just won an Oscar, I believe, or some kind of award. This was co-produced by a company, Participant Media, which is, like me, passionate about using entertainment for raising awareness. There was another film called Just Mercy, which talks about this gentleman, Brian Stevenson, who was the lawyer behind some pivotal Supreme Court cases to stop death row for juveniles. And they created a movie to raise awareness about what was happening and how Brian Stevenson used his expertise to change how we handle juveniles to be about uplifting and rehabilitating rather than penalizing. Uh, yeah, I think this is, and then last piece is just the games really quickly. There's a bunch of game developers popping up that are creating these quote unquote serious games, and all that means is by playing a game, you're going through levels that are intentionally teaching you about animal cruelty, or you're playing a game where you're in an environment that things are happening and it's teaching you how to handle climate action. So these are opportunities for what I call social impact entertainment, or what we call social impact entertainment.
Yeah. Just off the vibe that you're describing, because this is the first time actually listening to you, like the vision and more the details, I totally see it working
Sure.
100% because it's subliminal what you're trying to do, right? We're already learning so much
Yes.
subconsciously, automatically, because when we're watching TV, we're in that receiving mode. We're not using our like rational
Yes.
brain. And that is a
Yes.
weapon that the media has used, whatever you want to call it, the matrix has used to control the people's brain massively, right? But what if we inject some nice vibes, inject some nice consciousness in there? We can help people learn the vital lessons, help people, raise their frequency and vibrations in a like,
Yes.
a very calm, easy, peaceful way, in a very entertaining way, right? So I, I get that, because right now with what I'm trying to do with personal development, sometimes it's quite dry. Like, let's be honest. Like sometimes, like maybe like people that are not into the personal development space won't be like, hey, let me just open a podcast and hey, let me read a book. But
Sure.
most people, right, would say, hey, let's go watch a movie, let's go watch this TV show. And if it's good, it gives you that dopamine hit, it gives you that emotional up and downs. But like, yo, like I'm addicted to this TV series, right? No one be
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so it's like that. I see that working and on top of like just having that intention to help people transform. And if that team of people is creating from a good high vibe place, each person brings in,
Mm.
like you say, because it's strategic as well. You have the behavioral scientists, or you have some psychologists, you have some coaches, whatever, and obviously
Nice.
it's a set
Exactly.
piecing, right? So it's like you just produce a very high conscious content that could change people. I think, yeah, that's a very, very cool thing, man. Just turning it around, turning the industry around. Yeah.
Because you're still going to produce content, you're still going to create stories, right? At the end of the day,
Yeah.
there's stories, whether based on reality or not, there's stories, and they're being created from scratch. So you can easily create a story. It's not about like rainbows and butterflies. It's about just sharing intentionality behind actions. Like I never realized this, but like, well, I did actually, but Portlandia, in a way, is a type of social impact entertainment production because they're mocking how healthy or how conscious people are in Portland, which is
Mm.
helping raise awareness of a lifestyle where you're making deliberate choices to be aware of where your food's coming from, to be aware of the ability to keep your money local. At the
Mm.
time, nobody involved in that project was thinking like, oh, this is social impact entertainment. But if you watch it, it's brilliant. It's using comedy to mock conscious living,
Yeah.
which is fine. Meet people where they need to be met. People like comedy. So just throw in messages that are help, as you say, like lift that high vibe.
Yeah. It's turning it around. But like it used to be the other way around, where it's used to drive people down with fear and all that stuff, like the news media outlet, right? But now it's like, hey, let's induce some like enlightenment, peace, and help the masses
Yeah.
move towards that spectrum. That's beautiful. The one question I want to ask before we kind of move on to the next section is like, because in every, with the projects that you are involved in, one thing you always want to leverage the power of people to do small actions that would create a positive ripple effect. So
Mm.
from your experience, or just seeing your users use your app, like what is like some things, or that one thing that, hey, if all the listeners listening to this, or like if everyone just did this one thing, like it would create like a really good impact for the rest of the world. Like what would that be?
Uh, that's cool. There's many things flowing in my mind right now, but what I would say is that people take a moment before they respond to whatever happens in their world. So I'm actually not going for like a particular action like pick up litter or do
Yeah.
this behavior. I'm going more for responding to the world around us, whether that's the thoughts in our mind, the people in our space, or the tasks we have to do. Don't just react immediately. Give a moment of time, literally a second, 2 seconds, maybe 10 seconds if you're bold, and see what just happened in your world and respond to it where you can only lift it up. Because a lot of time, our brains are so fast at taking in data and coming up with a projected idea of how you should behave based on all past situations. And so it just reacts. It does it on its own automatically. If you wait seconds, literally 1 or 2, you create space where your conscious mind can show up and decide how to move forward. That decision may be jump on the reaction. It may be to be like, oh, wait, that's not the best thing I could do here. I can maybe be a little bit more, I don't know, caring to that person, or a little bit more mindful of, if I throw this piece of trash on the floor, I'm contributing to an issue. So yeah, I would say that one action or that one message I would want people to follow or listen to is like, really see how you can respond to stimulus, internal, external, and shift away from a place of reaction. That's my message.
Beautiful. Just having that mindfulness pause between like automatically
Yes,
going
precisely.
into something, right? And just like, hey, let's be the conscious leader of where we want to go.
Yes.
And 100%, that's beautiful. And I think that's also one of the most pivotal and recent epiphanies that I have personally gone through. And I can speak to this. It's like we are not our mind, and if we develop that space, then we can like, hey, what's the most serving thought, and we can lead our consciousness there and be detached from all our thoughts. I think that's, if I have to add on to that a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's perfect, because I think the best thing we can do is help other people change by being an example. Not calling people out for the way they're behaving, not suggesting to people what they should be doing, just by acting how you believe and how you've experienced a responsive behavior would be. And when they see that, they resonate with it, just like people resonate with my calmness. But because of my calmness, I'm able to respond. And so, like, I don't tell anybody, hey, you need to be more calm. Hey, chill out. Like, because if I'm doing that, I feel different in my heart. I feel that like resistance or that like pushback from somebody. And so I'm living that pushback if I call you out on your little bit more stimulated heartbeat, let's say. So yeah, I think it's really important to be what we want to see. And that's why, again, like I want to help shift the world, because it's shifting me by wanting to shift the world.
Just add on to that low point, like that's one point that you have reminded me a lot of times, like, hey man, like Marco, if you want to like create a more loving world, just be more loving. And sometimes I catch myself not doing that, not practicing that every single day, right? And I want to build like a harmonious world. And hey man, what if my family is not even harmonious right now? What I'm talking about, that world, I do take care of my world before I can take care of the world, right? So
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
something that's always in my mind, 100%. Yeah, I also want to touch a little bit on the personal growth stuff, because I feel like this is obviously one of your fortes, right? And you're
Heck yeah,
big
man.
on mindset and growth and always improving and things like that. So I'm just wondering, like, was there like a conscious moment like, oh, okay, right now, like I'm going to focus on my personal growth? Like, was there that moment? And like, one add on to that a little bit is like, how was Corey before his personal growth journey versus now?
Cool. Yeah, let's riff on this for I guess the rest of the 10 minutes or whatever it is. So yeah, I think I started just having a strong interest in neuroscience and the brain. And so I just began like exploring and learning about the mind, because it's, to this day, still is the most interesting thing I've ever been exposed to. And so by learning more and more about the brain and how it operates and how we can control it, or what can be controlled, or the potential of the shifts that happen, or the malleability, etc. These are all just big words right now, but like because of all of that, I began to like gain more control of myself, because I began to learn how, quote unquote, the machine of me worked. And so this shifted me to a place of like a realization that what I was doing was actually learning personal development by learning brain. And then from that, I don't remember if I like chose to find coaching. I think coaching just showed up in my path, or the idea of coaching showed up and it just felt right. And so, yeah, different things like quote unquote self-help books. I was reading them, not even realizing they were being beneficial to me. I just liked the content. And then there was a second part to the question. I think
Was
there was a second
like,
part.
yeah. So how did you find yourself before your personal, like how's Corey before his
Sure.
personal growth journey versus now? Yeah.
Again, I'm going to confabulate here because I'm not exactly sure how I was per se.
True.
But what I can imagine is that like I was just kind of going through the routines, going through the ropes, like just doing things because they were there, playing video games, watching sports, getting caught up in like, for me, girl talk, or like, who's the next girl, or what's that, or like, is there somebody for me, and like getting distracted by things around me. I was like that for sure. Like monks before they were monks had scattered brains, had like things that they did that now they look at them like, I wouldn't do that. Similar for me, like I was just kind of like less conscious.
Yeah.
I
Got
think
you.
that's how I would say it.
And one of the mindsets that there's three mindsets I know that you really believe in: the growth mindset, the shift mindset, and the undefeated mindset. Which I think growth mindset and shift mindset we spoke about today. Growth
Sure,
mindset is
sure,
a lot of people talked about it already. But what about
sure,
the
sure.
undefeated mindset? How do you develop the unwavering faith? Like especially, I'm just interested with you putting so much
Yeah,
effort in the good cards and just trusting the process, and maybe things not looking, you know, you don't see the results yet. How do you keep going and keep striding to your purpose and keep
sure.
following that heart of yours?
Yeah, I really like this. I should write a book. I have intentions to write a book, but I came up with this idea of the undefeated mindset, in
Yeah.
that it's not about when or how you reach your goals, or even if you do reach your goals, it's about the effort one takes. And so for me, this idea of this undefeated mindset is continuously going at it. You might need a break, man. You might need to take a rest. That makes sense. It's your body saying like, hey, take balance. You need to re-energize so you can get back on the marathon. Uh, the big word for me is timeless. Like, we need to have goals in mind with dates for sure to help guide us where we want to go, but we need to be timeless with that progress. Somebody, especially when it comes to personal development, somebody could take a day to have a shift in their behavior that might take somebody else a month, somebody else 2 months. Uh, it's not relevant how long it takes. When we're shifting for our lives, when we're making change for our future, as long as we're growing, we're changing. As long as we're continuing to push at it, we're making effort. As long as we're mindful of where we want to go and how we could do it, just do it. This is what I mean by undefeated. Not undefeated and like you won't fail, because goddamn, I fail all the time. There's things I try and where I lose. I don't win everything I do. I've played games. I've had sales opportunities that got lost. I've had clients that left me. I've had volunteers that disappeared without even telling me. I've lost potential relationships, right? Like all these things happen. The undefeated mindset is about, okay, what's next? What do I need to do to push forwards
Mm,
more? How can I progress to where I would like to go?
mm.
Period. It's not about a when or how or did I win, did I lose? It's just go. Go, take rest when rest is needed, and then you're winning. You're winning because you're not giving up. You're succeeding because you're making effort. You're undefeated because you're progressing.
Man, that is a mindset that is so powerful because you're not letting that negativity drive you. You're not letting that expectation drive you down. Like if it's you won't get discouraged. Like if you do so, you're able to jump back out of it. Like, hey, let's be that conscious leader of our thought. Let's shift to that undefeating
Yes.
mindset. And that's our North Star. That's where we should ground ourselves and we can come back to that. And I think that is beautiful, man. Um, wow. And quickly, how can one develop more of that? It's just like a matter of just trying more. It's just a matter of like consciously reminding yourself of that. Like, is it just
Uh,
that?
yeah, that's the hardest one because it's very intangible, right? Thoughts are constantly flowing in your brain. No matter how many times you shift, no matter what you do, thoughts are going to show up. So yeah, this is one way. What I've personally discovered, and this is subjective, and it's not for everyone, but writing is a huge, powerful tool because when we write, we have an opportunity to intentionally program thoughts. And so, like,
Mm,
growth oriented writing is very powerful because you're creating a story about where you want to go. So you have fully control of what you're writing on that page. So you can intentionally create an undefeated mindset by writing about it, by writing about what that looks like for you, by writing about how that changes your future, by being with the words on the page today so that tomorrow you're a little closer to
mm.
having that energized feeling. Doing things that suck. I love hot yoga and it's so damn hard. But by going to hot yoga and suffering through that challenge, I'm growing my ability to be undefeated. By working out in the gym and pushing my muscle to a place where it feels fatigued, I'm growing the muscle of being undefeated. By showing up to a task I put in my calendar or checklist, I'm growing the muscle of being undefeated because I'm doing it regardless of if I want to or not. I'm doing it because it was planned and I'm carrying it out. So just like self accountability, I guess is what I'm saying here, and challenging oneself to action regardless of want or need or desire.
100%. I really love the fact they say it's a muscle because it's something that we can develop over time, and it's about that growth mindset, right? We have that neuroplasticity, and also quick little thing. I think affirmation is also a really good way to reprogram our thinking.
Yes, thank
I think
you.
that's I think that's a
Thank
really
you.
good one. We got a minute left, unfortunately. Also, fortunately, or else we could, we would love to do a little coaching demonstration, but it's all good. So but I just want to say, like Corey, thank you so much for doing this. He's been a really like one of the biggest part of my personal growth, man. Like he has helped me set like a good foundation, helped me with like family issues, with like a lot of things what I need to work on basically, right? Through coaching, he's able to give that guidance to me. Um, and like I said, it happened organically, and then he became my coach for several years now, and so if people want to find like a coach, like where can people find you?
Definitely can go through you to reach out to me for sure. Through Divicati, they can touch base with you and link to me. They can find me coreyharnish.com. They can snag me on one of these social medias. Yeah, anyhow, as it flows, it goes.
Yeah.
and then just say, hey, saw some conscious conversations, would love to share some.
Man, hey, Corey, I really, um, really grateful, man. I don't have the words to describe this. I wish to have you
I
on.
feel it.
I wish you have another conversation because I feel like there's so much more we can dig deep, and I feel this way with a lot of guests. But you know, that's why they're a guest in the first place, right? There's always some more to share and go. So I wish you nothing but
Yes.
success with that, whatever you're doing. And yeah, is there any last things you want to say before we end this?
Yeah, first of all, kudos to you, man. For me, on the other side of this camera is somebody that I've seen grow and push and has an undefeated mindset without even realizing it's there. Um,
Wow.
and this conversation wouldn't be taking place if you didn't go after your desire to build a business, man. Who cares where it goes, how big it gets, how long it lives? The fact that you made the effort, the action, and you're including me in it, I'm really grateful because it's not just the guiding light, it's a part of it. So for me, I appreciate you because of this. To all of us, including myself and you, it's up to ourselves to take action, whether it's action of the mind or action of doing something. Uh, no matter what, there's going to be distractions. No matter what, there's going to be things that show up that we might want to judge, uh, and that's fine. Acknowledge it, notice it, and if you have the muscle, shift it. Besides that, happy to help in any way I can with whoever it is. Happy just to say hey to somebody, check in. Really big on conscious conversations, whether it's in the form of a podcast or in the form of sharing presence with somebody in my space. Thanks for having me here, man.
Hey man, much love as always, man. Thank you so much.
Much love, bro. Namaste, brother. Uh, keep crushing it. I'm here if you need me. Talk soon.
Hey guys, what's up? So just finished a call with Corey. Corey, if you're listening to this, man, this is crazy. Wish that we had a little bit more time, but it's all Gucci. You're a busy man. Go do your thing, right? And man, that's a feeling I get every time I talk to Corey. It's insane. Like every time I coach him, I mean, he coaches me, right? Like this is the feeling that I leave with. There's some insights. There's just a feeling of calmness, of, yeah, like, oh my goodness, I've been looking at my life in this perspective and I haven't thought about this perspective. And so, like, I get that surge of energy and shift my perspective to go, hey, let's try this out. And it's that constantly trying and doing and going back to him for guidance. I'm not saying like Corey, obviously, no coach can magically get us to where we want to be in a short period of time without our action, without our realization. But he was so tremendous part of the growth journey, right? So I didn't really grow up with a lot of support in my mental development. I think, wasn't have a lot of guidance. Say, hey, son, you should do this, do this. You should read this book. But like Corey was that like father figure to me, but at the same time was like a brother and a friend. So it's like a very weird combination, and it's all just wrapped up into love. So definitely, he's one person that has just showed me how humans can be and show me the potential of relationships. So this is a very um, unique type of relationship, and again, it's beautiful because we only met once in person, but I still feel very connected to this person, right? And so yeah, it's just beautiful. So that's why he had to be on the show, and I just hope you got something out of this podcast. I thank you so much for watching and listening, wherever platform you are enjoying this podcast. So with that being said, I wish you all a beautiful day and love and peace. Namaste. Beautiful.